Tonight on episode 10.
Fuck, 10? Is it really 10 already?
Tonight, we are young. This is verse, chorus, verse. Welcome to Verse, Chorus, Verse. I am David Liston. With me, as always, is Mr. Fun, period, himself, Svend Knutsen. Svend, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good.
You sure?
I think. Yeah, I'm getting better.
Good.
I've got the remedy. It's been one of those weekend weeks, like a whirlwind of stuff all coming at me. It's like drinking out of a fire hose.
I like that.
Which is awesome. Have you ever seen that movie? I think it's called UHF. It's not VHF, it's UHF.
With Weird Al?
It's a Weird Al Yankovic movie, but It's got, what's his face that played Kramer?
Richards?
Yeah. I don't know. There's a scene in that where they like blast this little like 7-year-old off of this fire truck. That go watch UHF, and that's my week.
And it sounds like that's what you wanted to do to your 2-year-old today.
Oh, man, when he did not want to go to bed. I'm like, yes.
We'll have a few drinks and calm down a little bit, talk a little music, and get you in the right headspace.
That's what I'm here for.
We're back to, I don't know what you call them at this point, our classic episode, our...
Reviews? Episodes?
Yeah, an album
Classics?
review. I gave Svend an album to check out. He gave me an album to check out. I'm not sure that we could have picked two more different vibes for albums this time.
It might be possible. If we went for it, we probably could find...
As I was saying it, I realized, no, there's definitely... We could have done better than that, but still pretty good. We'll go ahead and get into it. First, we got to start with the most important part of the night. Svend, what are you drinking this evening?
What am I drinking? It's like so far been a kamikaze of a refrigerator clean out.
Oh, I like those nights.
Which brings me to this beer that I think is only a year old. It might be over a year old. And it actually is brewed by Mother Earth Brewing Company, but I think it was for the Tree Fort Music Festival that didn't happen because of COVID.
Oh.
So it's at least as old as COVID has been around. And I've been saving it for God knows what, but I need to drink it before it goes bad. So it's called Timber Giant.
All right.
And it's got artwork by the awesome James. Oh my God, he's gonna kill me because I can't remember his last name. He does all the cool artwork and illustrations and shit for Tree Fort. Awesome illustrator and artist.
We'll give him a shout out in the episode descriptions and all that.
James, I'm sorry,
I
can't remember your name, but yeah,
you blew it, man. I'm a little bit disappointed that there is a beer that you've had in your fridge for a year. What's going on there?
It was one of those, like, I was so stoked because the music festival, and then the music festival canceled, and then I was like, well,
yeah,
I don't feel right. This could be skunky.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, it just needs to go. We're gonna give it a shot.
How is it?
Oh, it's good.
Good.
January 22nd. I'm a few months past.
Man, it's just gonna get more alcohol-y, right? Who cares?
Yeah. Does it really?
Don't look that up.
Maybe.
Just trust me. That's not true, but that's fine. He's got the Mother Earth Brewing Company. I have a much more dignified drink in honor of one of our albums tonight. I am drinking a massive Bud Heavy, one of the more white trashier beers. And I'm not saying that in a bad way. I dig me some white trash beer every once in a while. I will drink Coors Light, Bud Light, maybe even a Natty Ice.
Natty
Light.
Oh, Natty Ice. Ooh, you are hardcore. Camping beers right there.
So that's about it. We're going to get into it. We're excited. We haven't really gotten to go over an album for a while, so we're going to take a quick break, and then you will see why I decided to go white trash beer.
Get it.
We are back. For this week, I gave Svend White Trash Heroes by Archers of Loaf.
Love it. So Archers of Loaf.
I want to say, first off, really want to thank Archers of Loaf. and their team. It's happened only a few times so far, but when we get to actually play small parts of songs to describe what we're saying, it helps so much. So I really want to thank Archers of Loaf.
They're a North Carolina band. From the little bit of research I did, I didn't dig too much. They started out in the early 90s, I think 91. And then it was about 7 years before they disbanded. And this, I think, was their farewell album.
Yes.
They might have had some reunion or some little things in like 2011 and maybe discussions currently about possibly doing something again. But this was kind of like their final studio album.
Yes.
It's kind of cool. I'd never heard of Archers of Loaf. I hadn't listened to anything of theirs before this. It's always interesting when you get introduced to a band on their last album. Before I played any of their music, I knew that this was kind of their last thing. And it's like, okay, 7 years, you've been a band. You've kind of gelled your sound by now. You kind of have this cohesive glue that sticks you all together. It all makes sense. That was kind of, I think, my expectation, and so my review is going to come off probably like my most negative review to date. I'm trying to say this very nicely. See, even when I say something bad, I'm going to say it so nicely.
Sven didn't like this album very much. Let me say something, because I totally get what you're saying. Out of their 4 albums, this was their last, and I purposefully didn't give you... This is probably my favorite album of theirs, but I don't think it's their best album. And... I think most Archers of Loaf fans would probably agree with that. Mm-hmm. The one you were talking about, where it's the album where they most gel and they've really found their groove, to me, that's All the Nation's Airports. So when you get a chance...
That was right before this, right?
Yes. Go right listen to that. That album's amazing. This one, it's their last album. They were pretty much already broken up. You can really hear it in the sound, and the songwriting just... It got a lot darker. It became a lot more of kind of Eric Bachman's, the lead singer, vocalist, the one that goes, he went on to do Crooked Fingers. He's the most followed of this group, the main writer. Yeah. It's an album written in the middle of a slow breakup of a band, and you can really hear it.
You keep giving me these. Like, you gave me Kid A. That was my takeaway from this. It was very much like, okay, this is like an experiment of some sort. Yeah.
I think it was just a dark breakup sort of thing. The reason I picked this one is because it's darker, more desperate. I hate using the word grungy, but I'm just going to use it. I feel like I'm kind of giving you those type of albums to see kind of almost where your breaking point is.
Yeah.
And you're doing the opposite to me. You're kind of giving me these pop ones to see what can I give him.
I keep going more mainstream with you.
So before we go any farther,
yes.
Sven, let's guess each other's favorite song on this album.
Ooh. I think I'm going with One Slight Wrong Move. Perhaps.
Gotcha. I think I kind of know why you would have picked that too. Which is not a dumb reason at all.
And it's kind of right between a couple things that I'm going to talk about.
I usually do something when I'm picking songs for you, and then I change my mind, and there's a specific reason. What I'm saying makes no fucking sense, but I'll explain it later. I picked for you the title track, White Trash Heroes, which is the last song on the album. Yes. That's what I picked for you.
I'm kind of glad that was your pick. Let's get to it, and when we get to track 10... Woo. White Trash Heroes. It starts, okay, when it first started, it starts out with some energy that I like. Immediately what came into mind is if I walked into a bar or a club and I didn't know who was playing, one of those situations, you're just out on a night out, and this would catch my attention. I'd sit down with my beer and I'd probably dig in and ignore my friends for a little bit and soak this in for a while. It's that kind of a band. I feel like I've heard a lot of bands that sound like this sound.
Do you think that there is a part of this album for you that is a little bit of how would I say it? Kind of like a You Had to Be There album. You would have liked this more if you knew of it when it came out and you were of the right age.
Totally.
Does that make sense?
I think that was my feeling this whole album. Every track I felt lost and felt like if I had known this band, if I had listened to their other 3 albums, if I had listened to some of their EP, if I had caught this band live, I think that's had the opportunity to see Archer's Loaf.
My uncle Dan, he's been around the Boise music community forever. He worked at like the original musician. Hey, I'm wearing the shirt.
Musicians Pro Shop.
Like
that's right.
The original Musicians Pro Shop, and he just knows a lot about. I think he played basketball against Doug and just all that sort of stuff. He saw these guys at the Neurolux.
Okay.
And he said that the place just went fucking berserk. They just tore the place down. Which this is very much a bar band.
Yeah. And it doesn't surprise me that they played the Neurolux, because Alan booked some of the awesomest stuff there. Between that and back when the Dead Horse was around, it was the guy that brought Nirvana to Boise. Yeah. So Archers of Loaf reminds me of a lot of that type of band that I hear here. And it's a good venue, good history behind it. But going back to the Fashion Bleeds, their first track, right? Honestly, my favorite thing about this is when like the weird synth toggly part that goes back and forth, it's like halfway through and it sticks with it for the rest of it.
Yep.
The synth parts and the effects, what they do with their guitars, the bass sound. I really enjoyed the way that they created textures with sound in this album. The vocals, I think I was built up like waiting for something. I don't know. I had expectations that didn't get met. Probably unfair expectations. Eric, there's two Erics in this band.
Yeah. Eric Bachman on vocals and guitar, Matt Gentling on bass, Eric Johnson on guitar, and Mark Price on drums. He has a very early 90s voice.
He does. That's what I felt like. I felt like this album, and I rarely say this, but this album could have used him screaming a little bit. There's a few times I felt he wanted to and didn't, and I'm like, why did you just go for it right there?
Gotcha.
But in general, synth, at first I thought it was really just heavy distortion and compression on a guitar. I don't know, humbucker pickups that are just, I don't know. It was really nice, cool sine wave, but
they do use consistent keyboard work and like clavinet work. And the next song that you'll go over, he plays like a cheap little Casio.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that on Dead Red Eyes.
Yeah.
And it created this nice little drone sound that then they could build stuff on. Right. Yep. Like my favorite thing about this was the first time I got to hear this dirty, gritty bass tone. Their bass player has this, and I love that. It reminds me of like punk
just
bass.
Rips. I mean, this through the keyboard. Just rips it. Yeah.
It's not all low end. There's enough high end. I'm not a fan of the vocals on this track. It's the soft, timid.
I will agree with you that I like it way more when he is in more of his, when he's not kind of messing with the falsetto and doing the...
This is, like a falsetto experiment.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of, like when Adam Sandler does his joke voice when he's singing... the gibberish when he'd go...
And we just lost half of our listeners doing the worst Adam Sandler impressions they've ever heard.
Oh, I know. That was horrible. Like all in all, I think I liked the track until vocals, and then it was really hard for me to pay attention. Just Bachman kind of revolves through 2 or 3, maybe 4 different ways to use his voice.
I can totally see that. I really can. I don't know if I've just gotten past it just because I like their music so much, or if I just know for his voice, even if I don't love the way that it works with every song, there are certain songs that they've written, a couple of very specific songs on this one. I'll tell you the pinnacle of how his voice works perfectly in this band. When we get done with this, go listen to the song Strangled by the Stereo Wire.
Okay.
It is a fucking anthem. It'll kick your ass.
It's there. I heard it on a couple tracks. The next track 3, INS, where he does the weird megaphone effect, or I don't know, like the distortion.
Which I hate. I hate it when artists do this. I don't know why they do it.
Yeah. If it's for one line, because it makes sense in context, it was hard for me to really get to much more of it. Perfect Time, again, like I think it's the vocals. That's what I feel like. That awesome bar band that I want to hear, and then the singer starts, and I get a little bit lost. I feel bad saying it.
You don't have to feel bad saying it, because I completely disagree. And that's the beauty of this whole setup that we have, is that where you might not like something, I get to come out and say that, no, I think you're wrong. I think it's amazing, because I love it. I love his voice in this. It's natural. It's kind of calm. I love the backing guitar. This song song is a great example of the Archers of Loaf have some of my favorite guitar sound that I've heard. It's not overly raunchy, but it is raunchy. If I were to aspire to try to get the perfect guitar sound for what I want to hear, I think it totally is for me.
In general, this band, I think, nails a lot of awesome guitar sounds. And I love how they have, at times, two guitars playing these cool counterparts to each other and then panned left and right.
Yeah.
But it just doesn't sit. It's just taste, I think.
It's also, he's
not a bad singer.
This is also kind of you're a very positive person, and I know that doesn't mean that you don't like dark music or anything, because I know tastes, and we've listened to dark shit before.
Morbid Angel.
But this is a very, when I got really into this album, I was in a terrible place in my life. I had just taken off to Reno. I was doing dumb shit with dumb people I am sorry if we have any fans from Reno, but in a shit town.
I'm pretty sure anyone in Reno is like, yeah, it's a shit town.
It is. It's a shit town with shitty attitudes of people doing shit things. And this album totally fit that point of my life. If you listen to the lyrics and you really listen to the song, it was kind of the perfect soundtrack. You kind of
described
to that.
You described my Conor Oberst phase where I got really into Bright Eyes. and Elliott Smith at the same time.
Ooh, that's...
you want to talk about dark and... Yeah. Okay. This next one, the Slick Tricks and Bright Lights. When it first came in, I was like, oh, cool, a little blues progression, blues riff. Then that falsetto, timid... Like his vocal cords just have barely enough air going through them to make them crack a noise. Yep. I guess the more I listened to it, the more I started to dig it.
Here's the thing about this song. If it wasn't for the breakdown into the I don't understand how you got the upper hand and the little telly pluck, I wouldn't like this song if it wasn't for that breakdown. But what he's doing to get into that breakdown makes that breakdown just epic.
Yeah. It caught me off guard. I didn't expect to like it. This one slight wrong move, right? The cool little electronic percussion thing that they start out with.
Is it to me it almost sounds like he's bashing on piano strings.
I guess it could be. Whatever he's making the noise with, it's percussive and it has this Nine Inch Nails kind of quality to it.
Yeah.
And
I could see that.
I guess I get really into the dirty, gritty stuff on this album.
Is it a stylophone that's in this song? I'm pretty sure it is.
You could be right.
I love this song. I love the lyrics. I love the 100 million people could be wrong.
Yeah.
Which this whole song is basically saying fuck being a famous musician.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the reasons that they had such a hard time as a band is they were in that back of that generation that they didn't want to get famous or answer to labels. You
don't want to sell out.
Yeah,
you try really hard not to sell
because
out.
they wanted to be doing the bar scene and
yeah. And I actually like his vocal on this. To me, it reminded me of if Iggy Pop and Mick Jagger had a vocal baby.
I like that.
This raw, I don't give a F. I
appreciate you censoring yourself for me. So. My mom told me that I swear too much on this, so I gotta start cutting out the
Okay,
the
Mama. We're gonna watch ourselves. Anyway, banging on a dead drum.
Did this drive you nuts because of the vocals?
I think so. Yeah,
kind of screamy.
It's that.
Where I didn't like the whole megaphone thing, I loved this. This is very Tom Waits.
Yeah?
This makes me want to do a shot of whiskey and then another shot of whiskey and then walk through a shitty bar and get in a bar fight and go home and make love and eat a steak and smoke a cigarette and then climb a mountain and then go to sleep.
All at the same time.
Yeah, this song is totally the slide guitar and the distorted vocals and the cowbell and the the droning bass. That's just I love this song.
That brings me to the next song.
All right.
Smokers in Love. This is a pretty cool track. Grindy bass that I talked about. I love that grindy bass. The bass tone on this is awesome. It's some plain old rock. I love all the sounds that they used on that, from the keyboards, the bass. There was a lot of that.
The guitar, it's all great.
Yeah.
And Svend, do you know who loves instrumentals?
Hey,
this guy. I love him.
Awesome. So that was a cool track. After the Last Laugh, again, it's just he just can't settle on the vocal style, and I'm seeing that that's his thing. It just makes it hard for me to follow him from track to track, and it's not that I don't like people that switch up the vocals For some reason on this album.
Yeah. I like the layers on this. I think the layers are really good. I love the slide guitar.
Guitars on this were awesome.
The straight minor into whatever else. It's
the guitars on this reminds me of everything that every indie band in like about a decade later tried to do.
Yeah.
And then the sing-along, this is the one that has this cool ending, is just like this giant sing-along where the instruments finally fade out and it's just them. I'm hoping it's all their friends, like this crowd of people all singing along. I love it.
And the lyrics that he's singing too, after the last laugh, tis swollen and shrunk, when all that's left are the true beer hall drunks.
True beer, I could not figure out that line. True beer hall drunks. Oh, that is left.
It's this big kind of not happy. It's almost like an old drunken Irish chant. This kind of happy feel, and then you start thinking about what they're talking about, and they're talking about people that are still by themselves in the corner of the bar with their beer at 2 a.m. and the the ones that aren't going to make it, and it's really depressing, and I love it.
You do love the contrast of the happy sounds with the depressing lyrics.
This is it's such a dark, sad album from a band that was typically a little more angry and whatever than they are sad. This album is the album that when the team realizes that they are going to lose, it's the fourth quarter and they're like, fuck, we're losing this game. This is the soundtrack for that feeling.
I totally see how you set me up for this album now. You set me up totally for this review.
I love this album, so maybe I'm just trying to expand your horizons, Sven.
White Trash Hero. The title track, though, let's get to that, because I want to say the vocals are amazing on this. So I feel like this whole thing gets redeemed. There's some awesome harmonies. There's the backing vocals are awesome. The synths are on point.
It's not a complex song. It's a pretty simple chord progression.
No.
But yeah, there's not much I can say about this song. It's one of my favorite songs of all time. I worship it. It breaks my heart, and the wonderfulness every time I hear it. A lot of emotion. As an adult, there are a few things that make me feel that way. This album is one of them for me.
This song has one of the best examples of the guitar sound.
Towards the end.
The duet guitars, the two of them. I love it when people write guitars like that they mesh really well. They're not identical. And I think they do this really well on the whole album. It's really easy to hear at the end of White Trash Heroes. All in all, I love the instrumentals. I wasn't super stoked on the vocals. I found it distracting me more than anything else.
You feel a lot like Jim felt. Jim left a bad review on Amazon.
All right. Well, let's hear
Amazon
about Jim.
reviews are back, ladies and gentlemen. There are some bad reviews this week.
Because there's always gold on Amazon.
All right, so Jim on Amazon gave this album 1 out of 5 stars. Archers of Loaf is my all-time favorite group.
Ooh.
What did they do in White Trash Heroes? The album is correctly named. It's trash. I like heavy guitar, but these songs have no rhythm and almost no guitar. Eric's vocals aren't raspy like the other albums, and Eric's newer group, Crooked Fingers, sound like the White Trash Heroes album. Big mistake. I don't recommend it. So he didn't like that.
He didn't. Was this a transition album for Eric?
Yeah. Oh, totally. He was already with Crooked Fingers.
Okay.
So it wasn't to set myself up for it, but I think that the rest of the band was so out of it, they were so uninterested, that I think this album, instead of being a Archers of Loaf collaboration, like I think All the Nation's Airports was, I think this was basically a super depressed Eric Bachman writing a super. I mean, dude, Archers of Loaf was a huge culty band for a while. They had a massive following, touring like crazy, and they loved what they were doing in each other. So it had to have been hard. No pun intended. I just love the whole arch of their band's albums. I think their little 4-album run is perfect, and I'm glad that they didn't force it and try to keep going. Let's get into the awards and categories. Influences and influencees. I hear a lot of what you'd expect from, I hear Sonic Youth and Pavement.
Oh, Pavement. That's
the original, the Pixies with the original Soft Loud Soft bands.
Definitely under the influences category, like everything that's ever happened that's like that.
Fine Wine or Skunk Beer Award. I'm actually going to surprise you here. I think that this is more of a skunk beer. People don't want music like this anymore. They don't want the Sonic Youth, the that sort of. And I think that fans like me and probably other art, I think there's something that we like about that. There's something kind of, this is ours and you can't have it.
I'm right there with you. I agree.
Never mind the Bullocks Award. This is not their best album, but is the one that's probably most important to me. I don't think they have a best album personally. I think each album is very different and very wonderful. I do think that if you did hear the rest of their discography, you would definitely think that one of their previous 2 albums was probably best. John Paul Jones Award, actually, right. You talked about him earlier. I put down Iggy Pop. I thought this would be fun,
right?
Iggy Pop music.
I mean, I guess I said Iggy Pop, Ringo. I'm not Ringo. Mick Jagger?
Ringo.
Wouldn't that be cool? Ringo Starr was drumming on it. No, that would suck.
What did you smoke before this?
A 2-year-old's vocal cords right in my eardrum.
All right, let's do the John Popper Award. Do you have a best hook?
It's not really a full out hook. It's just the synth part in track 1.
Mine is the chorus into the end of White Trash Heroes. It ends life along the neon sky. That hook.
Okay, I kind of want to insert like a part 2 to my answer then, because the big sing along at the end of After the Last Laugh kind of did it for me too.
Eddie Van Halen Award. Mine is actually a lyric, which is I love the 100 million people could be wrong. Which was in the One Slight Wrong Move. I love that. I love that line so much.
For me, it's whenever the guitars duet with counterparts and they pan one right and the other one left. Anytime they do that with the guitars, I love it.
Surfer Rosa Award, no, it's not top heavy. It's not anything. I love this whole album. But what about you? I like
the second half more than the first half. So I guess, yeah.
Time of Your Life Award. What's your least favorite song on this?
Probably Banging on a Dead Drum, because the megaphone. I don't know. I had a hard time making it through that song.
My least favorite is INS, and it's for pretty much the same exact reason.
That would have been another contender for me as well.
The megaphone thing I don't love. But where we definitely differ are 3 best songs on this album. My third favorite is Banging on a Dead Drum. I love that song. My second favorite song is Perfect Time. And it sounds like we agree on favorite song on this album being White Trash Heroes.
Yes, I will start there and say my favorite is White Trash Heroes. White Trash Heroes, then Smokers in Love, the instrumental track.
That's a good song.
Something about Slick Tricks and Bright Lights, because it's definitely the most different from everything else.
I will tell you what I did this time, because if you didn't notice, I guessed your choice right.
You did, yeah.
What I did this time is I sat down and I thought, my first instinct was, I bet White Trash Heroes is his favorite. But I always do that. And I'm always like, no, that's your favorite, David. But then I went back and I was like, no. It's actually just a really amazing song. He's an artist. He's going to get it.
For sure. Hands down.
Who won the album? I'm going to let you start.
It's the guitar parts.
Yeah, the guitar's amazing.
The guitars are the hero of this album.
I am actually going to say Archers of Loaf. This is such a good bookend of an album. A lot of bands go too long or not long enough. They knew that they were done, and I think that's great. And I got this super amazing, beautiful, depressing album out of it. Good job, Archers of Loaf. I love you. Rate the album, Sven. What did you give this? Oh, you're drinking a Coors Heavy. What? You got a Coors Heavy, and I've got a Bud Heavy.
What? You weren't supposed to see that. That's one of my secret beers.
Oh, I did.
If I had to rate if I had to, I do have to rate this.
You have to. That's part of the thing.
I'll give them 5 out of a baker's dozen.
I am giving them 9 out of 10 draft beers sitting at a dive bar. I love this album. I think it's fantastic. I think it's a watermark away from a David 10 out of 10.
Wow.
I love it.
Hey,
that's it.
Hey, part of this too, I mean, God, it would suck if we both agreed on every freaking album, right?
I agree. And if you're a rock band, I don't think you want that. If I'm a rock band, I want to hear two people arguing about me. I want to hear one person saying those guys suck, and I want to hear somebody else say, no, you're an idiot.
And hopefully they're like, go listen to our other 3 freaking albums, because that'll win you over, and I'm going to.
As they say themselves, 100 million people could totally be wrong. Got one more review. We will be right back. We are back.
All right. This week, I gave David Some Nights by the band Fun.
Period.
Capital F-U-N.
Yeah.
Let's have some fun.
All right. Some Nights by Fun. Recorded in 2011. It was produced by Jeff, is it Basker?
I don't know how to say it.
I think it's Basker. He's one of the more prominent producers of the 2010s. He did Kanye and Jay-Z, like Uptown Funk, a ton of humongous hits. Some Nights won just a shit ton of Grammys, and they have like 6 million downloads. I didn't study a lot about this sort of stuff, but apparently the song Some Nights broke just a shit ton of download records. And this is one of only 2 LPs from them. They've been on hiatus, quote unquote, since 2015 with really not a word. As far as research into this, am I missing any? Are there any prominent production points or anything that I'm missing, Sven?
Emily Haney did tracks 8, 9, and 11. So she did 3 tracks on this.
Shit.
Only slight. I mean, all in all, I don't think you detect it. What do you like or not like?
Before we get into that, let's guess each other's favorite songs.
Oh, yeah.
I think your favorite song is Stars. And the only reason I think that it's Stars is because there is a very, very solid kind of funk bass drum thing going on in that song. So that's the one I went with for you. What do you think my favorite song is?
I am not 100% on this. I'm going to say We Are Young.
Gotcha.
I feel like I'm so off all the time with you. You surprise me. Still.
For those of you that don't know, we don't force one specific album on each other. We give each other 3 albums to pick from.
Dude, this was for the behind the scenes special.
Oh, my bad. Edit that out, David. So in a way, I did kind of pick this. And I picked it for a very specific reason, because I knew one song on this album. Let's just say I had a very strong feeling that I was not going to like this album. And so I wanted to have kind of a prove me wrong type episode, because I don't completely understand how the fuck Sven likes this album so much. So I don't know. What was the bigger song on this album? Was it We Are Young or Some Nights?
I think Some Nights, you can play 2 chords on a piano back and forth, and people, at least close to 2012, would be like, oh, that's that song.
So they were both pretty massive then, right?
Yeah. Some Nights probably just a smidgen more.
So unfortunately for your guess,
I was wrong.
You're very wrong. I'm going to start my review by saying that the only song I knew coming into this was We Are Young, and I did not like it at all.
Ooh.
That was why I chose this. Like, you know what? I kind of think I might hate this album, and I want to hear Sven's take on it. I will say that I do like Some Nights. It's super fun. It's catchy. I can run to it. I don't love it, but it's good times.
It's a good story.
Yeah, there are some really good lyrics in it too. Some nights I wish my lips could build a castle. Sometimes I wish they'd just fall off. Trying twice as hard and I'm half as liked. Well, and then he will say some weird line like that they're trying to jack my style. Which I like. What?
Here they come again to jack my style.
I don't.
Yeah.
Like, huh? And then
that does seem a little like you've already made it, but they're not quite a style jacking band, right?
Not at all.
They haven't been around long enough to be like.
And the song,
yeah.
that song has nothing. That song has nothing to do with that. That song is
Yeah.
all about kind of trying not to give up and this and that and stuff. And then he has this one line about they're trying to jack my stuff.
I'm
like, yeah.
I'm not the most lyrically. The rest of the song is very much about relationships and things like that, and that just kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So that's a pop music thing though. Like every now and then you just throw in this. I don't know.
The intro of this album, it's fine. It's kind of, I don't know, Panic at the Disco-y, kind of doing this wannabe symphonic, operatic, whatever. The problem with this album, there are things on this album that actively piss me off.
Yeah.
Like there's the song Out on the Town. I sit there and I start getting mad listening to it. The guitar, the hook, the beats. I'm not a song skipper. When that song comes on and I'm having to try to listen to it to pinpoint things, they're also, to me, their songs are way too long for the style of band that they are. You expect these kind of, 3-minute ditties.
Like 2 minute, yeah.
And you get these 5-minute, 30-second ongoing things. It Gets Better is another song that makes you really mad. I hate the intro. It's this tired 2000. It's almost like a late Blink 182. There's no dynamics. It doesn't go anywhere. It's like they made a song to perfectly encapsulate what I don't like about newer music.
It doesn't bother me. I kind of get what you're saying. It's just like stuck out there at the end.
Yeah.
I guess I haven't really paid that much attention to it because to me, like Stars kind of closes it, and then that Out on the Town kind of is like Some Nights. That was the song that got me into fun. Some Nights. Which is also why I guess I thought it was the most famous. It was the one that I heard first. So I hadn't heard of this band until I heard Some Nights. And I actually at one point covered it on piano. It was really fun to play. And then I dug into the rest of the album. So We Are Young, all these other songs were kind of afterthoughts to me. It has a lot of characteristics that you'd expect from a band from 2010 through 2015. They're smack in the middle of that.
They're so into the epic snare bass drop thing, and they want everything's to be this
produced
symphonic.
To like the maximum. Yeah, and when you look at who they hired as a producer or who their label hired, they kind of had that mainstream thing going for them. I think they aimed to be a mainstream pop band, and they did it. I've been throwing a lot of these mainstream or like more really, really poppy things at you.
Yeah.
Mostly because it's new to me. That genre is something I've most recently grown to appreciate.
I'm not saying that you don't have an ear for music. You have one of the best ears for music I've heard, but it seems like over the last 5-6 years, you've been way more into the production part.
Yeah.
The production on this album is phenomenal. To me, it's the songwriting that sucks. I'm going to get to Stars. No. I hope that you don't take offense by the fact that I called this your favorite song, because I fucking hate this song. It's not because it sucks, because they have this really cool in the background. They have this kind of R&B bass, this dunk 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 dunk.
Yeah,
really great.
Especially when they hit the halftime
kind
thing
of
and
funky, funky drums. Awesome. And then over it, they have the most nagging, squealing auto-tune I've ever heard in my fucking life.
But I love it.
And I'm not, so it's no surprise that I'm not, and everybody knows I'm not a fan of auto-tune, but this is more than just auto-tune. This is, I want you to turn that fucker up to 11 and just, I want to sound like 72 Dying Cats.
And there's like 70 copies of his voice just all.
Oh my God. I hate it. I hate it so much.
I don't know why I'm laughing so hard. That's awesome. I love that you hate it.
And I'm kind of the same way with One Foot.
Yeah.
They do this kind of intro timpani brass guitar thing, and then they just do it the whole song.
Yeah.
It's like dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. And it's that for 4 minutes. I will say that there are a lot of really, really good harmonies in this album.
Yes.
There's a lot of this kind of 60s, 70s, even 80s influence. I hear a lot of Queen, Elton John.
Yeah.
There's even like maybe some REO Speedwagon type of harmonies in here.
I think this is one of those things that really highlights the difference in the stuff that I latch onto versus what you latch onto.
Yeah.
Every now and then a band has everything.
Uh-huh.
And then there's every now and then these bands that cater to one side or another. And I think this really highlights some things that like I really get into that you could probably do without, vice versa other times. But
kind of seems like we both chose very similar albums
for each other. Exactly.
In that sense.
Yes. I think we're purposely doing that to each other here.
We're 10 episodes in and we're already just completely fucking with each other. This is going to be exhausting. Why Am I the One is a song that kind of encapsulates that for me. The aspects that are good, but in the end, I will listen to Why Am I the One and I will point out specific things that I'm like, that takes talent. That's good. But I could not be more meh about a song. I will say that the times that I did hear other bands, I heard influences that we just talked about, but I heard very blatant, All Right is one of the songs on the album that is very, what's the British, Keane. Oh. It sounds a lot like a Keane song to me, which I like Keane. Keane's good. And then the one that they probably wouldn't take as an insult, but I mean it as an insult, is the song All Alone. That's fucking Maroon 5. It's completely Maroon 5. And I'm sorry, but...
I see that. How is that an insult? Come on.
I really, really don't like Maroon 5.
Yeah. I often wonder with bands like this how much the producer gets to weigh in on the actual writing process, right?
Because a producer like that, who's number one hit after number one hit after number one hit, gets to walk in and say, you do this... You got $1 million done, you know? And so you end up with Maroon 6 songs and Keane songs, and they have Carry On. It's kind of this folksy song, but I'd rather hear Flogging Molly right here. I'd rather hear them. I want the song Carry On in the hands of a real folk band. You know what else I don't like about this album, Sven?
Tell me.
There's a lot of fake applause in this album.
The tracks.
It's weird.
The crowd tracks.
I don't really, I don't get it.
I'll agree there. Those are cringy moments for me.
I think I've gone through every single song. The last thing that I'll say about this album, this is the first time, I'm not trying to be a dick, I'm just being honest, that when I sat down on Saturday night with a whiskey and just turned this on, every single time that we've done that, even if I kind of wasn't getting it.
Oh, I finally found the thing that broke David.
When I sat down with a whiskey and turned this on and I was relaxed and I was comfortable, man, I did not enjoy myself at all.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So not really much more I can say is Boy, I did not like this album. I'll say this, for those of you that have listened to the podcast, the other episodes, I would listen to ADHD 5 times again before I would listen to this.
Ooh! Wow. And like I said, I'm trying to open myself up more a little bit to pop music.
Yeah. Honestly, I love that part of what we're doing. I want those boundaries pushed. I want to be taken out of my comfort zone. And that means that, occasionally we're going to give each other albums we don't like. That's the whole fucking point, right?
Yeah.
We've been having really great interactions with a few people that are listening. We just premiered this shit. And we've already got really great interactions with people. One week, they're writing us saying, yeah, so I'm totally on board with Sven. Sven knows what he's talking about. And then the next week, David's right. Yeah. That's what's awesome about music, and that's why we're doing this. I love it.
Totally. A lot of times, mainstream stuff, I feel, gets really watered down musically so that it appeals to the masses. In that regard, I felt this was an easy one to get into if you were really into musicality or rock or even some jazz and blues and things like that.
That's some nights. That's the review. Also, Sarah Goss did not like it either.
Well, Sarah.
Her Amazon review. This is a long one, Sven, so buckle up. 1 out of 5 stars. I didn't like the CD. That's it.
Sarah.
That's her review.
Sarah. Did you just not like the physical CD? Was it scratched upon arrival, upon purchase?
Influences. kind of what we talked about, Maroon 5 and Elton John. And
I hear some of that. I hear some like their harmonies. I hear sometimes some Queen.
Yeah. Fine wine or skunk beer? You already know my answer to this.
Skunky as hell. I think that there are maybe 2 tracks on this that would fall into the fine wine, and the rest are just skunk beer.
Never mind the Bullocks Award. They only have 2 albums.
I don't think it's a full length, is it?
Oh, so maybe they only have 1.
Either way, this is it.
John Paul Jones Award. I think this album would have been way better with a different producer.
Yeah.
I think if they would have turned away from a pop producer and gone with more of a John Leckie or a super indie producer, you know what I mean? Right. That kind of brought more of that folksy, piano-y vibe out from them.
I'm honestly going to leave it how it is.
All right. The John Popper Award, Best Hook.
Well, I mean,
it's the Some Nights. Some Nights I Wish This would all end.
You know,
it's a great hook.
I somehow found myself in possession of all the track stems for this. So I have the acapella.
Oh, really?
Of just that. Just the acapella of that line, the Some Nights. There's something powerful there that I think when you add everything else back in, it almost takes away from it a little bit.
So for my Eddie Van Halen award, I actually have in the same song, and it is the lyrics, the oh come on, and they start adding on
the bell tones, like the chords that build stack up above it. Yeah,
that's pretty. I really like when he does that.
Yeah.
Surfer Rosa Award, not at all. The first 4 songs, it's a pop album.
The first 3 and then like the last 3 or something. It's like half the album, but it's kind of split. The middle is where they shove some filler.
Time of Your Life Award, I really don't like One Foot. That's physically painful for me to just keep hearing that intro happen over and over, but I actually am going to go with Stars, because Stars is just, it runs the gamut of shit for me. It's a good thing in the background, just completely ruined with this terrible singing. Do you have a worse song?
It gets better. It's true. It does get better. That's about my least favorite. Everything else gets better.
Best songs. What are your top 3 songs on this, Sven?
I love What You Hate. So Stars. Yeah, I mean, you picked it, dude.
That's your favorite?
That was what you picked, right?
I went 2 for 2 tonight. Hey-o.
You did. And just to rub salt in the wound, I love the weird auto-tune, 500 copies of himself. Then Some Nights.
Yeah.
It's a good feeling from the get-go. We Are Young.
That's your number 3.
Also, probably just because I've heard it the most out of all of them. So, like, it probably just got beat into my head. It might not be the best song.
The one the Matrix told you was your favorite. My 3 are, my third favorite is Why Am I the One? I don't even really like that song, but it's my third favorite. Number 2 is actually the intro to the album.
Oh.
I kind of feel like they failed at what they're trying to do, but I still like it. I like the chord progression, and I like the orchestral elements that they're trying to add. But yeah, my number 1 favorite is Some Nights. That's a good song, and I'm sure that it'll be on a running mix for a long time. Who won the album? I'm going to start trying to picture being kid, 13, 12. I'm going to say for whatever year this came out. When did this come out? 2011?
12, yeah.
I'm going to say young concert goers when they came out. This would have been such a fun concert.
Yeah, this is first concert without a chaperone.
Exactly.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
The producers. So I guess mostly it was Jeff Basker. Mm-hmm. I feel like that's kind of what takes the whole album. The band was great, performances are great and everything, but
yeah, when you have an album that's this poppy, there's
the glue that holds it all together, yeah.
Sven, why don't you go ahead and rate this album?
I'm going to stick on my Baker's Dozen scale and give this one a 11 out of a Baker's Dozen.
Wow.
So it's pretty close to up there all the way.
Man.
Room for improvement.
Sven really likes this album. I'm going to be probably a little bit on the lower end.
Just a little bit, probably.
I gave this 2 out of 10 girls blasting their song in their Jetta.
Ooh.
We also should probably have a comment, because this is the lowest I've rated an album. I gave ADHD a 3 out of 10.
Yeah.
A 3 out of a 10 is just one that I kind of want to ignore. A 2 out of 10 is more of, it's everywhere. You can't get away from it.
Yeah.
And then 1 out of 10 is I can't even stay in the same room if it comes on.
This is close then, huh?
It's a solid 2 out of 10. There's a song I like on it, so there's no way in hell that yeah. That's it. That's fun. And White Trash Heroes, some very mixed feelings. We learned about some new bands. We heard some new music. Thank you, everybody, for listening. I really want to thank Archers of Loaf and the Archers of Loaf team for letting us play. It means a lot, especially with these older bands, that we can try to keep albums like this alive. As an old music guy, I don't want music like this disappearing. I want people to keep buying the vinyls and listening to it, which the White Trash Heroes vinyl is beautiful, by the way. It's this beautiful white vinyl. I love it. VerseChorusFirst.com. Contact us there. You can listen to episodes there. We're very active on Instagram at VerseChorusFirstPod. Svend is starting to kill it with the YouTube. So we are on YouTube. He's got them premiering midnight every Sunday night. We're everywhere. We're iTunes, Spotify. If you're on iTunes, rate the podcast because that helps us. And download if you're on Spotify, like or subscribe if you're on YouTube.
Yeah, all the things. If you see thumbs up, likes, hearts, click those things.
Please do. Come back next week. Next week's going to be fun. We're going to do a little bit of crossfire reviews. We're going to take a bunch of new music and we're going to review it quickly.
Pew, 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 pew.
Svend, as always, it's been lovely talking to you this evening.
My pleasure.
We will see you next week.